I feel like every month when I ovulate, my ovaries go into overdrive.
We have to make this happen on this timeline.
But all I got was basically, bitch, relax.
We all have a very unique life path in front of us.
I was heavily pregnant in this vision.
Do I need to do something about these like lines in between my eyebrows, or do I just let them exist?
My biological clock is tick, tick, ticking. And
should I just be a sheep and follow what everyone else is doing?
hello, my friends. Welcome back to the What to Do When podcast. Kelsey and I are here ready to rumble and talk to you about something pretty significant and scary, and something that is, I think, roundabouts for everyone. And it is what to do when your fucking biological clock is ticking. And Kelsey, do you know this feeling that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I just turned 29, so it's a
Yay.
pretty pivotal year because you're nearly 30, and that's scary.
Do you know what I was thinking about the other day? I was thinking about when that point in time where you start to not enjoy your birthday, like you start to not look forward to it.
Aye.
When did that hit for you?
I think I'm still enjoying it. I think it's just been scary getting closer to 30, because the thing with 30, it's like, you're not a kid. You're officially an adult. I think. When you hit 30, you can't still be a kid.
You can't get away with that nonsense, can you? You can't make
you can't
those
ask
silly
your parents
decisions.
for money and all that stuff.
Yes, 100%, right? And I think it is true. I know you just turned 29. Kelsey and I are the same age, so I'm a few months younger than her, but I'm about to turn 29 too. And I am like genuinely quite scared to turn 29, you know, like there really has to be a lot of active like mindset work and reframing and talking to my, you know, worried, anxious parts when I think about it, because I'm like, oh my God, turning 29. Like, if I was to show you what, like, there is 100% a part of me that feels like my biological clock is ticking. I feel like every month when I ovulate, my ovaries go into overdrive, and there's this little part of me that is just like, like, with every day that passes, we get further and further away. We must go. We must reproduce. We must get married. We must blah, blah. And it's so overwhelming, and so like, in that it's the perfect example of, if anyone's seen Inside Out 2, of like the character anxiety. It's like the perfect replica of that. And I feel like that lives inside me whenever I think about the fact that I'm getting closer to 30, that I'm single, I'm childless, I'm, you know, don't have a house, I don't have a huge amount of savings. Like, I am not where I think that I should be by the time I hit 30. And it's terrifying. Kelsey, what does that feel like for you? Show me your anxiety about aging.
Honestly, like, I don't have too much anxiety about the biological clock, because I want to have kids later. Like, I want to have kids when I'm in my late 30s. So I think yeah.
Wow.
Because I want to live my life fully, do
Yeah.
everything that I want to do, have that freedom. Because as soon as you have a kid, you don't have your freedom anymore. Like, you have to take care of a living being for the next 18 plus years. So for me, it's always been, I really want kids, and I want like 3 kids, but I'm going to wait until I've lived my life fully. And so being 29 still, I think if I was like 35, I'd be freaking out. But kids for me is still like 7-8 years away. So I'm like, oh, it's okay. I've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But I do notice the like anxiety around comparison, of like comparing, especially with women. Like, a lot of women are getting like plastic surgery or ways to make themselves look younger. And it is really hard to try and separate yourself from that and be like, this doesn't actually feel like a good thing for me. But it is really hard to not feel like I should do it, because everyone around me is trying to look younger, and you're getting older, and you're like, okay, well, is it okay to like, is it okay to look older? Like, do I need to do something about these like lines in between my eyebrows, or do I just let them exist? Like, what do I do? And I can feel that anxiety there, like kind of second guessing myself and the aging process in itself.
1000%. I literally was looking up about 2 weeks ago, lip filler and Botox. I was doing my research, and and it's like, my mum has been a real pillar in terms of aging. She has let her hair go silver, and she's gone through this whole process, and I've got to see her go through this whole process of coming to terms with the fact that her hair's changing, that she is getting older. And it's so cool. And I have had grey hairs since I was 21. And it was so funny. Like, it used to get to me so much. It used to really upset me. And the other day at the gym, actually, I had my hair up. And when I have it up, you can see quite a few more of them. And she was like, what's going on? Well, you've got so many more grey hairs. And I looked at her and I went, they're called silvers. And because they're meant to be like, Mum was always like, they're like glitter, they're like sparkles. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And like, I was super protective of the thing that I was like, don't put your aging bullshit onto me. Like, I don't want to do it. And ironically enough, Mum's actually done it as well. She's done it. It was probably about a year ago. And she said to me, I was frowning or something. I was making a face. And she was like, don't, you're going to get wrinkles. And I turned around, I looked at her and I was like, don't you put that stuff that your mum did to you onto me. I was like, I don't want to fear aging. That's your stuff. It's not mine, you know? And I was really protective of it. And it's so true that this appearance stuff, like there's both the outside and the inside for me. There's the appearance related stuff. There's like, starting to get like, what are these called? I'm going to call them smile lines. I'm going to call them that. Do you know?
They're good.
I have got some intense smile lines. Well. Yeah, and the eyes here. But you know, the other day I was cracking up and thinking, I was like, man, why do I have such intense smile lines already? And this like song came on and it was like a real like groovy song. And like my dance face, which I'm pretty sure every millennial out there is going to relate to this. This is my dance face. Whenever some good tunes hit, I go like this.
Yeah, the stang face.
Yeah, the stang face. And I'm like, no wonder I've got these big smile lines, because they're actually stank lines.
It's like the pinnacle of drum and bass.
You know, and I'm like, wow, that is glorious.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting off track. But for me, it's the outside and the inside that the fear pops up. It's this like, you know, outside aging is totally happening. Like things are changing. Even like physically, my body is so like, I genuinely feel it getting older. It's a lot creakier. I've got to do a lot more mobility. Like it takes longer to recover. And then there's wrinkles popping up. There's grey hairs. I even got TMI, but I even got a couple of hairs on my nipple the other day. I was like, oh, all right, that's new.
I have those as well. They randomly pop up and you're like, okay.
And I'm like, should I pluck this? Like, I don't know what the deal is.
I didn't want this.
Yeah. And then there's like the inside portion of aging, and there's all this pressure around like, I 100% want kids, and I realistically want them probably in the next 3 to 5 years. I always see myself being probably 33 when I have a kid. Like that's just the number that I have in my head. I was doing the calculations the other day and I should not have done the calculations. I'm like, if I want to have a kid by the time I'm 33, I'm going to want to have been married for a year, so I'd be 32, but I'd want to have known them for at least a year, so I'm 31, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to meet them, probably another year, so that's 30. And even then, that's fucking fast. And I'm like, whoa, I'm about to turn 29. Like, the time is now, you know? And the idea of the biological clock ticking, I love that you have such a clear mindset on the fact that you want kids when you're older, and I kind of wish I had that. For me, which maybe I shouldn't be listening to this, but there is definitely a lot of like fear-mongering stuff that I've been listening to about a woman's body as it ages, if it's difficult to get pregnant, the older you get, you know, things like this. And, you know, the reality is that there's lots of different ways to have a child, but it's also scary to think about the fact that maybe I wouldn't be able to. You know, it's a really scary thought to think about. But there's just, if I'm not careful, and if I'm in a low moment, and if I'm thinking about, oh my God, it's September, oh my God, it's almost the end of the year, if I go down that little track inside my mind, that part of me comes up going, holy fuck, we have no time left. We have to figure it all out now. Like, we need things now. Like, we need to get ourselves on track. Like, what are we doing? Stop messing around. And the reality is that this messing around, that this anxious part of me says, it's my life.
Yeah, you're living your life.
I'm living my life. I'm not messing around. I'm just living, you know? I was thinking about the decisions that when we're in that place of anxiety or scarcity, which is what this fear of getting older and, you know, the biological clock is ticking, I was thinking about what are the decisions in my life that I've made from a place of fear, anxiety, or scarcity. And I was thinking about how fucking poor those
Oh
decisions
my
were.
God. It's so easy to see when you think about it. You're like, yeah, that was not a great decision. I was
No,
stressed.
like, honestly, like if I look at it, definitely the big ones that stick out are staying with partners for too long, or knowing that this relationship wasn't for me, but yet I stayed because I wanted the love and I wanted the happily ever after. And, if this was my person, then I was totally on track for all that other stuff. And it was always that decision from that place of scarcity. It was like, I'm not going to meet anybody else, or it's never going to get any better. It's been jobs that I've taken. It's been even like, when you go shopping for an outfit and you're like, oh, fuck, I better just buy this because I'm probably not going to find anything else.
The number of clothes I have bought that I like don't wear because when I buy them, and I'm in a place of like emotional stress. Frustrating.
The decisions are poor, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are there any like key decisions that you look back on in your life that you have made from that place of anxiety or scarcity?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is even like decisions made from people pleasing because that is like anxiety in itself. So a lot of the decisions I've made have been for other people or to try and fit in with other people and not because I knew myself or knew what I wanted, but it's like that grasping, anxious energy of wanting something else and wanting something to like fill that emotional void that it's created. Very similar to you, just partners, choices with traveling, like there's so many decisions I can see. And I think that's actually been a really big thing I've been learning this year is to just rest and slow down. Because like you were saying earlier, it's like that part of you wants to control and it's like, we have to make this happen on this timeline. But realistically, like we're not in control. Like we can think that we're in control and we can think that if we do these things and go out to these bars, we might meet that person who then might, we might have a kid with them, but we are not in control how the timeline works. And that energy only makes us feel like pressured and makes us feel like we're doing something wrong and that there's something wrong with this moment. And I have been like, it's taken a lot of time, but really working to unlearn that and just trust that I'm like where I'm meant to be is where I'm meant to be, that like rest is okay, that listening to my body is important and just prioritizing myself and my health and trusting that the rest will fall into place. Because there is no point in being anxious. Like you can be as anxious as you want about it for the next 3 to 5 years, but ultimately you will not be in control of when that like baby decides to develop in you. Like you could be trying to have a kid for years and years and years, and it might not work until the time that it's meant to. And so I guess because of a lot of the things I've been through as well, a huge part of how I've dealt with those things is just to trusted that it's happening for a reason. It's happening in the timeline it's meant to. And that has made it really easy to kind of let go of a lot of the anxiety around aging in those decisions because I've had to navigate such difficult situations that required me to just trust that this was happening for a reason and it was happening the way that it was meant to. Otherwise, I would have like drowned in that trauma and it would have like still been affecting me. But letting go of that, letting go of the control, which sounds really scary for all of us because we want to be able to feel like we're in control of our lives. Like letting go of that is actually really transformative and a really healing way to just trust that your timeline is working as it's meant to and not feel guilty for living your life and just enjoying every moment as it passes.
100%. And it's this word timeline, isn't it? Like if we really look into this, we have been fed from a super young age, right? That there's a specific timeline that a woman needs to go and abide by in order to be successful, right? In order to have nailed it. And that if you don't nail, the house, the kids, the marriage by the time that you're 30, what the fuck are you doing? There's that bullshit belief out there that's created from that place of scarcity and it's pushed onto so many people. And if you haven't woken up to the fact that that timeline was created by probably some marketing company who wants you to buy their fucking products or to, do you know what I mean? Like to invest in whatever it is, or, by the government so that you buy a house and that you get locked into that. Or even when you look at, like the laws that you fall into when you get married, like there are a bunch of laws that you then have to abide by just because you're now a married person. Like, stuff changes, you know? And when we look at that idea of control, it is somebody else is trying to control you. They're trying to control you in the way that you live your life, because the more outliers that they have, the worse it can be, you know, whereas they want everyone to follow the same timeline so that everyone is doing, you know, all the little ant workers are doing all their little things. And unless you've woken up to that idea that, like, the timeline, aging, all these ideals of success have literally been made up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and then agreed upon throughout time, and followed throughout time, and spread further and spread wider because everyone else has followed the same thing. Unless you wake up to that, you are going to feel that sense of urgency, that sense of I'm a failure, I'm going to have regrets, I'm going to miss out. You're going to be sitting with that energy every fucking day of your life, right? And you're going to lean into that control. And it's such a good point that you bring up, that we don't have control. It's so... Because isn't it funny? Like, I find the path that my brain will go down, especially when it comes to kids, like, there's absolutely nights that I'll lie in my bed and I'll go, my God, what if it doesn't happen? Like, what if I don't meet someone and I don't find someone to have a child with? Like, what if I don't get that? What if I don't meet that person until I'm 44 and it's too late and my body can't do what I want it to do, or whatever?
I'm just going to put a pause in that and say my mom had her first kid when she was 40. She had her second one when she was 42, and she had me when she was 45.
Shut the front door.
And I beat birth control. She was on birth control because they didn't want to have a third kid because it was like too many complications. You don't know what might happen. Here I am, a living, breathing example of, like, there's proof in the world around you that things, you can get pregnant really late in life, and it can be a healthy pregnancy. And, like, it's so easy to, like, look at everyone else who's following that social norm of, like, getting the Botox or having early pregnancies or freezing their eggs or whatever. You're fine to do that. But if that's not for you, it's so easy to look at those people and feel like that's where you need to be, but instead turn to shift your focus on, where can I find evidence in my world around me that people are living the life that I would like to do? So, like, the older women who are, like, rocking all the wrinkles, like no plastic surgery, or just, like, doing whatever they want, trying to seek that out in your environment and be like, oh, there's proof that it's still okay to do it. Because it's so easy to convince yourself that you're doing the wrong thing when all you're doing is looking at people who are doing the thing that you don't actually want to do, but you feel like you should do.
So true. And, like, can we just see how, looking at you, Kelsey, you, like you said, you've known for a long time, like, you want to have kids later in life, and you grew up with literal evidence in your freaking face, like, smacking you in the face. You can live a life and you can have kids in your 40s and it will be fine. Like, you had that evidence right there, and it's given you this ability to be so strong in that belief. And, like, it sounds like you have less fears about your old biological clock ticking than I do, right? Because you've had that evidence in front of you for so long. And it's so true, right? Because the more that you fall into that trap of scarcity and anxiety, the more that you're going to find evidence to support that belief. And so when I'm in that place, for some godforsaken reason, I end up getting all these, you know, TikToks and reels and podcasts about what happens to a woman's eggs when she ages, and how every year you lose, you know, and that eggs on that anxiety. But for you, and now you're reminding me, and hopefully everyone on this podcast, that there are 100% people having kids later in life and doing so well, you know, like, it's entirely possible. But this idea of control is so key. It's this really damaging idea, isn't it? Because it's the self-blame. Because the road I find myself going down late at night, from time to time, usually when I have my period, by the way, it's my fault, and I'm going to have fucked it up, that I'm not doing enough right now to go and date and meet that person and, you know, nail this job and show up bigger in my business and meet more people and save more money and travel more. And, you know, it's like you can't win. But there's this energy of, like, I want to be in control so that I have somebody to blame if I quote unquote fail, right?
Yeah.
And when I accept that idea of I don't have full control, one, I get this massive sigh of relief, because I'm like, thank God, you know, I'm like, hallelujah, because that's a lot of pressure So the pressure gets relieved, but it takes away for me. It sort of triggers that victim part of me that likes to blame. And it goes like, well, fuck, like if my life doesn't turn out the way that I thought it should, who am I going to blame? Like, it has to be somebody's fault. It has to be my fault, or it has to be someone else's fault. It can't just be what it is. There's that resistance to being like, it is what it is. Maybe this path wasn't for you, because we're brainwashed from such a young age to want these specific things. And it's such a hard question of like, is this actually what I want? Or is it because I've been told I should want these things from such a young age,
Yeah, well, that is what you said earlier. You were like, because I think I should. And should is always a word rooted in guilt, because it means there's something you're doing wrong and you need to be doing something else. So it would be really interesting to ask yourself, like, what do I actually want my life to look like? Why do I want kids? Like, and figure out the essence of your desires and whether it actually is something that does feel really good intuitively, or is an imprint. Like for me, it's like buying a house. Like there's so much conditioning. Like you need to buy a house now. Like you've got to save. You got to have a house. And I'm like, fuck, I've got to have a house. But then when I actually
where am I going to get the money to buy the house? Yeah.
Right. When I sit with the energy of, do I want to buy a house right now? I'm like, fuck no. I want to save my money. Like everyone I know who has a house is stressed to fuck because of their mortgages. I don't want that. I want the freedom of not having that hanging over me. I don't want to settle down in a place right now. I don't want to make that commitment. Energetically doesn't feel right. And I had to sit with that for a while because I was getting really stressed about it. Because like you said, there's so much all the time, like in our ears, telling us what we need to be doing. And when I finally made the decision and like realized, wait, I don't actually even want a house right now. It was like, oh, all right, no stress. Like just let it go then. Do something else. Like, okay, that's kind of easy then. I still have to... I just want to think about it.
I don't have to deal with that pressure.
Yeah.
But again, like, we are not taught the skills to actually ask those questions. Like, is this what I want? And I think this is why coaching, therapy, counseling is so important, because it helps you to dig into those places. Because, damn, like those, for me, if I speak from me, those societal beliefs of the norms of, house, children, marriage by the time you're 30, those walls are high, they are some strong rooted belief systems, and it's taken a lot of work to be able to peel back those layers and to actually go, what is really important to me? What might it look like? Do I actually want to get married? Is that something that I actually want, or is it just something that I think that I have to tick off the list, Like you said, with the house and so many things. And like, it takes a lot to dive into those places. And I'm genuinely so grateful to coaching, to therapy, to counseling services, and having the ability to access them, to actually have asked some of those questions. Because if I, when you see like two paths laid out before you, like I genuinely think if I had not done this work, if we call this the inner work, when I was, sort of 24, if I hadn't started and gone down that road, the road that I would have gone down and been in now, Jesus fucking Christ.
Right.
Like,
I think about that often.
Like, I genuinely am like, fuck, like, would I have a baby by now with someone that, is lovely, but not the person that, like, we shouldn't be together? Would I have a house in some random place and, like, just be okay with living there? You know what I mean? Like, thinking about that road that I could have gone down, and having done all this inner work and being where I am today, even though it's not, there's moments where I go, I shouldn't be here. But when I actually think about how I wake up every morning and how I feel and like what I'm doing at the moment, I'm happy. I'm happy and I'm healthy, and I have really cool friends and great connection. I have a passion. I'm excited to wake up in the morning, and I'm like, that's what matters. Like at the end of my life, that's what I want to feel. I want to feel that connection to the excitement and the joy that I lived my life with, and it is really scary to let go of that control, because you're basically stepping into the unknown, right? You're basically saying, my life might not turn out the way that I think it, quote unquote, should turn out. Like, I might not know the path that I'm meant to go down. And that's scary, isn't it? Is it scary for you
Oh
to
my
think about
gosh.
that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about the future. I'm like, what the hell is going to happen? But just out of my control. Like, it's something that I've really practiced is just letting go and trusting even the shitty stuff that comes through. Like, I had a really shitty few years and it was really hard. And I knew during it that it was happening for a reason. And I can see now, oh yeah, that was shaping me to grow in this way. It was pushing me to grow in this way. And so that's kind of been like the mantra that I've taken throughout the last few years of my life is even the bad things are shaping you in some way. And usually that is to push you towards something greater because otherwise you wouldn't change. If nothing bad was happening in your life, there would be no incentive to change or to do the inner work. Like, I'm sure it was some of your darkness, some of your shadow parts that pushed you to want to do the inner work. And it was the same with me. And like you said, so incredibly valuable. I think I've said this on one of the other podcasts, but it's something I genuinely love to preach is that like you can't make decisions when you don't know yourself properly. Like it is really, really hard to figure out what you want, what direction you want to go in, like whether to say yes or no to things when you don't actually know your desires and your wants and like what makes you feel like aligned with life and with the universe, what makes you wake up happy. And when you know those things, it's so much easier to make those decisions that are aligned with that. But when you don't, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, should I just follow? Should I just be a sheep and follow what everyone else is doing? Or when you take the time to do the inner work and get to know yourself, you get to carve out your own path because you realize every single one of us is here on this earth for a specific reason. And we all have a very unique life path in front of us, and it's up to us to create it and to shape it how we want. But ultimately, like, we're in control of choosing that path. That's kind of the way I see it. Like, we don't have control of what happens in the future, but we have control of the moment and the choices we make that lead us to the future that we want. Like, you in this energy right now of waking up every morning feeling good, surrounded by friends who love you, like loving the place you live, that's the energy you want to stay in to create the life you want. Because imagine the alternative. You waking up anxious every day because you've gone out on nights out trying to meet guys and you're like throwing yourself on the dating apps, and like say you went the full opposite way and you were trying to do all these things to make it happen, you would be feeling so much worse every day, and that is not the energy you want to be in to have the life you want. So focusing on the choices you can make, the control you have in those daily moments to say, am I going to go for a walk today or am I going to go out day drinking? Like, neither one is right or wrong, but it's just whatever feels right for you in that moment. You could really want to drink that day, and then the man of your dreams happens to be at your party. You know,
Yeah.
It could happen like that. But if you're making decisions out of should, or because you feel like you have to out of some like societal pressure, it's not going to align for you. You have to make those decisions of what actually feels really good for you and do that.
I'm just cracking up thinking I've had some really cool experiences lately where my anxiety has been triggered by something and I've gotten quite anxious. And I've also at the same time had the ability to watch the anxious part. You know what I mean? Like, I've been present throughout the process, which normally in the past with my anxiety, I have not been present. I have just, it's almost like, you know, you kind of black out and then you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I just did all these
Yeah.
things and I made all these decisions and holy fuck, you know?
Yeah.
But I've been present throughout those moments, and just, God, some of the choices that I want to make from anxiety, from scarcity, from fear, some of those choices and decisions that I want to make, Jesus, oh my God, like I can see how easy it is to stray from your path when you're living with constant anxiety and fear and scarcity and fear of missing out and worried about regrets and, you know, trying to keep up with everybody else. I can see how easy it is to just go down a path that is so fucking far from the path that is yours.
It's all consuming.
Oh my God. And then you wake up one day and you're like,
Yeah.
where the fuck am I? Like,
Yeah.
and you have a full on breakdown because you're like, I can't do this anymore. Or you start, like I did, you start developing physical symptoms. It starts manifesting. You start shitting yourself on a daily basis. And, you know, you get put on a different path and you have to face this stuff. And it's mind-blowing to me what that process of waking up is like, and the ability to stay present even in anxious moments, or the ability to come back to yourself even when you're, it's fucking 3 a.m. in the morning and you can't sleep and you're lying in your bed thinking, am I ever going to meet anyone? Am I ever going to have a child? Am I ever going to have the house? Am I ever going to feel like I've ticked all those things off? Am I ever going to make it? Like, even when you're having those moments, the ability to come back to yourself and to like support those parts of you, because at the end of the day, those parts that have all those beliefs about the timeline, the perfect timeline, at the end of the day, if you think about how old are those parts of me that believe that stuff, like for me, they're probably like 5, 10, maybe 15. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say around the same age, like before 13, 5 to 13 probably.
Very young. And you go, wow. If you would, if you gave a 12-year-old the ability to, map out their life right now, right? Like they'd be like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that.
I want to have $1,000.
If you gave them that ability, because they're fucking 12 years old, they have no idea. And when you think about the fact that when you're in that place of anxiety and scarcity and FOMO and all that stuff and feeling that pressure, you literally are basically saying, okay, 12-year-old me is going to make my life decisions. 12-year-old me is going to decide, should I go on this date or not? Should I marry this person or not? Should I have a baby right now or not? And why would you let that young part of you make those choices? Because they don't have the ability to go, is this what I really want? Or is it coming from fear? Is it coming from anxiety? Is it coming from worry and overwhelm and the pressure that we all feel, It's mind-blowing and so important. Like I hope, Kelsey and I, before we hit record, I asked Kelsey, I was like, this is a really important, heavy topic, but what do you want someone to walk away feeling at the end of this episode? And Kelsey and I both sort of said some very similar things. We said, like, we want that sort of sigh of relief that, one, I'm not alone. Like, I'm not alone in the struggle of having these fears and worries about, about both aging, the biological clock, am I going to get everything done in time, and that pressure. And I want it to feel like that grounded reminder, you get to make the decisions about your life, nobody else. And what you want, and figuring that out, is going to give you all of that fulfillment, all of that joy, all of that happiness that you want for most of your life. Like a lot of people I speak to, they just say, like, I just want to be happy. I want to get to the end of my life and I want to feel happy and fulfilled and excited by the life that I lived,
Totally.
Kelsey, question.
Yes.
For someone that's struggling, what advice would you give them about how to let go of the control, be at peace with that their timeline might not turn out the way that they think it should?
I think one of the things that helped me most was just focusing on my day-to-day and like learning what things brought me joy and what things didn't. And that control is all based on the future and things that haven't happened yet. But when you focus on like little things that make you feel good every day and trying to integrate more of that into your life, focusing on the present, focusing on like the next few days, focusing on how you can care for yourself and your energy, for one, shifts the focus away from the future, but also you're learning things that make you feel good and you're bringing more of that into your life, which means that you're going to start feeling more optimistic, like happier and better throughout the day, because you're surrounding yourself with the things that bring you up and you're removing the things that bring you down. New Year's resolution in 2020, I was doing this meditation. And the thing that came up for me was the phrase follow energy, which I ended up getting tattooed on my arm. And it's been like my...
Oh my God, I just clicked on that.
Yeah, it came to me in meditation.
And now you're an energy worker. Wow, okay.
It was all before I got into energy. It was before I believed in any of that shit. It was really wild, the premonition. But that's what essentially that means. And that was my New Year's resolution for that year, was to figure out what made me feel good and do more of that. And that meant evaluating like the things I did in the morning, the food I ate, the people I hang out with, the activities I did. I was constantly just noticing how I felt and deciding, okay, these things really make me feel good, or it doesn't, and just trying to do more of that. And I think that would be a really beneficial way to let go of the fixation on the future and the control you want to have on it, because you can control your day-to-day life in that sense. You can control like eating something that makes you feel good, waking up at a time that makes you feel good, wearing clothes that make you feel good. Like you have control over all of that. So take that control over the future and bring it to your present moment, into your day-to-day life, and use that to shape your life and your future.
That's so good. And do you know what? I just clicked that something that I do most mornings, and I just realized what it was that I was doing, and it is a practice. But most mornings I will journal. I will journal about, and I'll just ask myself that question, like, how do I feel? Like, how do I wake up feeling? And I often will think about the events that happened the day before, and I'll do like an assessment. I'll go, oh, how did they make me feel? You know, last night I hung out with a bunch of friends, you know, it was really great. And I'm someone that does often forget to do that sort of work in the moment, you know, that like, yeah, Kelsey, you speak a lot about, you know, saying like, you know, you leave a group of people and you go ask yourself, you know, how did I feel in that? Like, how am I feeling now? And I'm someone that genuinely forgets to do some of that stuff. And I can get sort of quite caught up in life and in the swing of things. And having that practice, like regular practice of short meditation. I'm a 5-minute gal. I struggle to go for more. And a short journaling 1-page session. And the question that I always end up answering on the page is like, how do I feel? And like, it's just that effort to get in touch daily, or as much as I can, with my feelings and emotions and how I'm intuitively feeling, because it is really easy to get caught up in life. It is really easy to just, you know, get caught up in the swing of it. And we have to create those moments where we hit pause. We have to do that so that we can reevaluate. And that's what I think working with coaches and counselors and therapists, that's what they get you to do. Those sessions are you hitting pause and actually going, how did I feel in that situation? What was at play here? Why did I make that choice? And so having a regular practice like that, I think is really helpful. And it sounds like, Kelsey, that's something that you now do almost automatically. Like you're very in touch with your energy. And I would say I'm a person that's not quite as in touch in the moment. I have to create those moments. You know what I mean? And neither of those are right or wrong, but I just want to say that so that if you're someone like you so that you know that there's different ways to do this. It doesn't need to look all one way. Do you know what I mean? And other people I know all struggle even more to create those moments for themselves. So they book in therapy once a month so that they can sit there and have someone guide them through it, you know? And I think that's really key to helping with this fear of, fuck, my biological clock is ticking and I don't know what to do and I'm freaking out. You know, I think it is so key to think about those things and ask yourself those questions and do some of that work with those anxious parts of you that want to have control, that want to have that false illusion that they are controlling everything and that if you don't make it, you are to blame and you're a failure, blah, blah, blah. And to get clear on what's really important to you. And I want to share this story of something that I've been playing with at the moment. So in the healing world, there's this phrase called quantum leaping. Okay, right? Every time I hear these words, I go, what the fuck is that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, are you fucking for real? You know, anyway, so I started looking into it more and I then started to understand what it was. So essentially the idea of quantum leaping is quantum leaping to a version of yourself in the future that might have some of the things that you want, that has more wisdom than you have right now. The way that I see it is not necessarily actually jumping forward to a new version of you. It's actually getting in touch with like your real self. It's really just asking your intuition, you know?
Truly, just talking to your intuition.
It's just talking to your intuition, but for some reason we like to call it quantum leaping, okay?
Makes it sound scholarly.
It makes it sound fun. And it makes it, do you know what? Quantum leaping gives me the same energy as 30, flirty, and thriving. You know, it gives me that same energy. But anyway, so I've been playing with this idea and I was like, oh, I'm going to try some of these practices. And I've done a lot of inner work over the years on whether I want to have kids or not. Growing up, I grew up without a dad. I have grown up from a generation of women who have grown up without dads or who've had father wounds. And so from a young age, I always was really I was always like, nah, I don't want to have them. That's too complicated. Don't want to pass this shit on. And then over time, obviously, I started to do the work and I started to realize like, wow, like actually being a mother is genuinely important to me. And like, I do really want to do this. I would not want to do it from a place of fear, but from a place of love, I absolutely want this for myself and for the children that I get to bring into the world and for the love that gets to grow. And so I was doing this quantum leaping thing. I was at the beach and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to quantum leap to a version of myself that, you know, has a kid or is pregnant, and closed my eyes and started to see this vision started to take form. And I was heavily pregnant in this vision, and I was at the beach and I was lying in the arms of somebody that I loved and I was leaning back into them, and I had this giant belly with me, you know, and my face was just smiling and laughing. And I asked this, you know, vision or version of me, AKA, I asked my intuition, what do I need to do to be here? Like, what do I need to do to get here? You know, like, what does that look like? And the only word I got was like, you just need to relax. Like, this heavily pregnant like version of me was the most relaxed version of me I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, so relaxed, just letting someone support them. So like, even like in my body, I could see it looked like my muscles had relaxed. It looked like I'd taken a muscle relax. I was just like, and I was so like stoked. And it was like the only words I was getting, because I almost had this idea that I would get like a set of instructions, you know, go to this location, meet this person, go on these dates, you know, blah, 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 to make this happen. But all I got was basically, bitch, relax.
Just live your life. You know,
live your life. Yes. And it again, just live. And it just highlighted for me once again, the decision, like our life is a sum of the decisions that we make. The everyday decisions in the moment, the big ones and the small ones. And it really hit home for me that the decisions that you make from a place of anxiety or fear or scarcity, for me, those are limiting decisions. They are decisions that will take me away from the person that I am, not the person that I want to be. Because I want to push this as well, as you're not trying to get somewhere else. You're trying to get closer to who you've always been and who you innately are. And it's the decisions that you make from places of anxiety. Oh my good God, they're going to take you so far away from that. But I was thinking about the decisions that I make when I'm relaxed. They take me closer and closer to my own heart and to just
And they're easy.
Love.
They're easy decisions.
They're easy. They're
so easy. It's like, oh yeah, I need to do this. That feels good. Let's
totally.
do that.
Yeah, they are easy. There are some that have been harder, that where it's almost felt like my anxious parts and my more intuitive parts have sort of both been at play, and I've had to, you know, work with that and had to calm that inner conflict down, which is why I love that parts work. But it is easy, and it's that sigh. Oh my God, how cute is this? I literally have, everyone, I've pulled a card for us and we're quantum leaping to the next realm, okay? Sorry, I hope you know that I'm joking when I say this. The card literally in front of me, it was just sitting on my desk, says, trust your path. If you knew you would be supported, what would you do?
Like if you knew you were going to be pregnant in the timeline you wanted, what would you do now? How would you change your life now?
I'd be so relaxed. I would just keep living my life.
There you go.
You know, and like 100%. There are so things that doesn't mean that I won't still push myself. I really want to make that clear, because I think I had a really false idea for a long time that that thing of like, it gets to be easy. I always thought that any resistance that I met, I should stray away from that. But that's not necessarily true. Like, I still need to work with the parts of me that don't want to go out on dates, right? Because it's scary putting yourself out there, right? There are 100% parts of me that are terrified of falling in love again. And I need to work with those parts of me and keep showing up and keep moving forward. And that's key for me too, you know? But it would be a much more relaxed way of doing that. It wouldn't be, you know, oh my God, I've got to go on fucking 50 dates by the time I turn 30 and blah, you know? It wouldn't be that energy. It would be this relaxed energy. Like, you know, when you have a friend who's a bit worried about something, I think everybody's probably got an anxious friend. I think I'm that friend for a lot of people. But everyone knows someone, hopefully, that is a little bit of an anxious, maybe overthinker. And sometimes you just have to like look at them or hold their hand and put a hand on their shoulder and say like, babe, it's going to be all right. Come on, let's go this way. That's that energy that you want to give to those parts of yourself too. But yes, if I knew I was supported, if I knew that the timeline was all going to work out and that at the end of my life, I would feel the way that I wanted to feel, I would be so relaxed. And so that is my fucking daily reminder every day is, and I know that it sounds funny, but this is just the voice in my head. It's not like relax, go on the higher path. It's bitch, relax. That's what it's like.
Love
and
it.
it always like gives me that like, yeah, you know, like relax a bit, have fun, enjoy yourself, stay present. What about you, Kelsey? What would you, if you knew that you would be supported, what would you do? Or what would you be doing differently maybe?
It's something I am kind of working on at the moment, is just taking the pressure off myself,
Yeah.
because I so easily fall into that there's somewhere else I need to be. And so when you were just saying the bitch relax thing, I was thinking, what is the voice that comes into my head? And it's pretty much like, what is wrong with where you are now?
Oh, that's such
Seriously,
a good
what
one.
is wrong? Like where are you, and also where are you trying to be? Like just
Yeah,
chill.
where are you trying to go?
Where
Like,
are you trying to go?
where?
Yeah.
You know, like
'Cause Kyle asks
genuinely.
me that a lot, is like, say you want, like, where's the bar? Like, what is the parameter that you're trying to meet? And is it even realistic, or is it even something you really want? You know, like, I want to feel better. I want to be better. What the fuck does that even mean? What does being better even mean? Like, there's no definition for it. How can I meet it? But also, what is wrong with where I am now? Where do I think that I'm like not showing up or not good enough? And one of the things he has me ask is, where does that belief come from that what I'm doing right now might not be good enough? And it usually is society or like childhood conditioning. It's never your own belief. It's something imprinted at a young age. And as soon as you can distinguish like this idea that I need to have like a house and kids or whatever, is that my belief? No. Okay, so why would I let it dictate how I live my life?
That was a bar. That was an absolute bar.
And scenes.
We're going to clip that into a short Instagram reel for everyone. That is so, so true, right? And I guess that's exactly what we've been talking about today is the idea of the perfect timeline is not your idea of a perfect timeline. And
Yes.
a friend said something to me once. They said, everybody has their own timeline. And that gave me this sense of imagination as to what my timeline could be. You know, it got me to think outside the box. I think that's also really helpful an exercise to do, because I feel like when we're sitting in our beliefs that, you know, our societal beliefs, our childhood beliefs, you know, what our parents told us is right and what's wrong, and what society tells us is what's acceptable and not acceptable, it rules out the space for like imagination and creativity. You know, like when you think about like what could be my timeline, you know, like what could it be? Could I be 65 and graduating with my second degree? I don't know, but like what could my timeline be? Can I think differently, you know? And that's so important. I heard that really clearly, to identify where those beliefs are coming from and then to come back to what is mine, you know? And I hope that anyone who is feeling that tick, tick, tick in, which we're all here. We're all feeling it, babes. Did I just say babes? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second, what?
Babes. So I've been watching too much Love Island. Babes, just calm down, okay? But no, I hope that anyone who is listening is like genuinely feeling that permission to create their own timeline, and also feeling the comfort that we all feel this from time to time. There is no shame in staying up late at night and going through an anxious spiral of, am I where I'm meant to be? You know, make it in time. Time is running out. There's nothing wrong with going down that path. I do think it is part of being human as well. Like I do think it's one of those things. But also those moments can be such portals. Let's use that word. Such portals to come back to yourself and to come back to what's really important to you. Is there anything, Kelsey, that you want to say to all our biological clock tickers out there?
I mean, just finish it with just live your life.
live.
Focus on the present moment and just live.
That's
Let it go.
Let it go. And if you want the voice in my head, you can borrow it, because it always just says, bitch, relax. All right? So everyone just relax a little bit and enjoy it. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. It's so fun to be back here, and just, I know, I feel so grateful and so fun. This is one of the things that is so #aligned for me to be doing with my beautiful best friend, Kelsey. It is so fun. And we'd love to hear from you. So don't forget to hit that little bell icon to subscribe. It really means the world to us and helps us to keep growing the show. and we will see you next time. And if you have something that you're struggling with, if you want to submit your what to do when question for us to explore on the show, do so on the show notes. But otherwise, we'll see you soon. Thank you.